What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Steven Osentoski here of MGoFish, bringing you episode 2 of Recruit Review for Michigan's football class of 2020. Today we're going to be covering early enrollee 4-star safety Makari Paige out of West Bloomfield, Michigan. Thanks to Darren Gross and don't hate, a good motto to live by. I can't say that seriously. These were 2 comments from the episode 1 of Recruit Review for the class of 2020. You can see the little icon up here to watch that on Blake Corum, but these 2 comments suggested Makari Paige as well as the poll for the last YouTube video as well. Go ahead and vote there for episode 3. I'm going to switch it up this time. I'll show more highlights throughout for Makari Paige, and then I'll talk over it so you don't have to stare at my face this whole time. As I mentioned, Makari Paige comes out of West Bloomfield, Michigan. Pretty reliable talent bed there out of that program run by Ron Bellamy, a former Michigan wideout. He's the head coach at West Bloomfield High School. Division I program, so they're facing good competition. Michigan also has linebacker Cornell Wheeler out of West Bloomfield, who's also in the 2020 class. Moving on to his rankings. So all services have him as a 4-star in a pretty tight range, around 225 to 250, depending on who you ask. Anywhere from up to 14th safety to 25 in the composite. So top 20 safety are in that range. And then he's a top 10 player in Michigan, top 5 according to ESPN, and 247. He did measure in at 4'2". He did measure in at 6'2.5" and 183 pounds at the opening regional back in March of 2019. So that's a pretty reliable measurement there. For his testing numbers, none listed for the 40 time. He has a decent shuttle at 4.38, not elite, and no vertical listed as well. So not a whole lot to go off of from his testing numbers there. For stats, I'll post them up on this side. I get it wrong every single time. In 2018, he had 105 tackles as a junior, 3 tackles for loss, a forced fumble recovery, 2 picks, and 4 pass breakups. 94 tackles as a senior in 2019, 5 tackles for loss, 2 fumble recoveries, 2 picks, and 7 pass breakups. Okay, moving on to his offers. He had a Final Four of Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Kentucky. Kentucky was notably the first program to offer him a scholarship. Outside of those top 4, he had Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Iowa, Maryland, Nebraska, Northwestern, Michigan State, Arizona, ASU, Washington State, among others. So obviously pretty wide range of offers there from across the country for Power 5 schools. Very good offer list. Looking at his recruitment, his first visit was Michigan State, which was an unofficial in September of 2017. Kentucky had the first offer in November of that same year. Michigan was the third offer in early 2018. He took official visits to Kentucky, Penn State, OSU in summer of 2019. He took an unofficial a month after that OSU visit to Michigan and committed a week later in July of 2019 to the Wolverines. As I mentioned, he's an early enrollee as well. Okay, let's move to his film here. Okay, let's first take a look at his ball skills. So he has really good timing with the ball in the air. He gets to the receiver at the right time and can really lay a lick on the receiver, as you saw in that first clip. So he's really decent at high pointing the ball. So when the ball's in the air, he has good timing of when to jump for that. He's excellent. I think his best attribute with the ball in the air is taking angles at the time of the pass. So he identifies, at what point should he make contact with the receiver. And at the time of release of the throw, he gets to the receiver at the perfect time. So that's a really valuable asset as a safety, as that breaking on the ball at the right time, ensuring that you get to the receiver for the pass breakup. This last play especially, really, really great. He identifies right away that this is going to the pylon. So he had his eyes in the backfield. He takes off directly towards that middle of the end zone where that receiver is and lays a really nice lick on that receiver. So overall, really, really good. So the next plus I see is him working through contact. Now, this is something he could get better at and obviously will once he puts on more weight and, time within the program. But he has a good job identifying blockers, IDing where the play is supposed to be going, working through that contact. So I would like to see him engage with contact in a little bit more areas. So he's really good at identifying where the play is going, who is responsible for blocking him, and making it work, working through that. I'd like to see him add a little bit more pop as a part of that. But this last play especially, it's a stretch to his left. He IDs the crack block, IDs the lead blocker, understands that he has outside contain. He forces the play back inside and then makes the tackle as an assisted tackle there. It includes the combination of IDing the play, working through contact, understanding his role and his responsibility for that play, and then still making a play on the tackle. So all those things are very good to see for a safety prospect, and obviously will translate very well to his college game. Okay, there's a lot of plays in this next section for play identification and breaking down for a good, solid tackle. So he breaks down incredibly well when he has to. He's good at getting to a spot where he has to read what the ball carrier's decision is going to be. And that just comes down to instincts, right? He understands when it's time to fly and when it's time to break down and react to the decision the ball carrier has to make. He's always in control and more often than not attacks low. So he wraps up low and doesn't go high all too often. He wraps up really well, and he's disciplined. You know, he knows his role, fits into it extremely well. Again, that's something that not a whole lot of safety players have. A lot of defenders, you know, they'll fly up and make a flashy play. I don't see a lot of flash in this, but I see a lot of dependence. It's safe. You know, as a safety, you want the defense to feel safe as that last resort, and his technique's really good there. So this last play, he stays really engaged here. You know, as a backside help, he's shuffling towards the middle of the defense, identifies this play coming back to him, fills the only hole possible for that running back to go. As far as blitzing, this play really displays that he has the ability, the straight line speed to make it work. There weren't many highlights of that, so I don't know if they'll display him in a blitzing capacity at Michigan, and I think because of Michigan's other prospects at the safety position as a part of the 2020 class, he won't be asked to do that much, but it's nice to see that he has a play where he's able to do so. All right, let's look at 5 plays of negatives here. So play 1, good coverage overall here. You just have to pull in this pass, right? He jumps the route really well. Few instances of this where he has good defensive ball skills, good instincts following man-to-man coverage, but just not the best hands in the world once he hops that route. So just something to keep in mind. Play 2 here. So another interception opportunity that, again, goes through his hands. Play 3. In this scenario, 2 main things to talk about. First, he doesn't really engage with a potential blocker in front of him. That's okay. In college, you have to be ready for these blockers who, you know, will definitely engage and not just shadow box with you, right? So that's number 1. And then obviously number 2 at the end of this play, don't suplex the guy. There were 2 or 3 plays where he suplexes, and that's a for sure penalty in college, and just can't have those mental mistakes. Okay, play 4. Good play here overall, right? Tendency to go high on occasion on plays like this. You know, obviously it's still a good hit, and there are opportunities to do that. There is a difference in doing that when it's, you know, a pass and arriving to break up a pass. In that scenario, obviously you want to lay a hit and not wrap up in that scenario. But here, you know, you'd like to see someone go a little bit lower. Again, this is not a huge issue for Paige because I didn't see it all too often, but just something to note. There were a few instances of that, and just something that with more proper coaching and you know, being in a college program, you'd hope that he'd improve upon that. And then finally here, he flies down on this sweep play and ended up behind the running back here. With a running back in a college program that's a bit faster than that, that guy's already gone, right? So he displayed it really well in the rest of his highlights where he showed patience and broke down when he had to. In this scenario, even though he forced the running back to bend, redirect the path there, you know, just being mindful of those routes and those angles that he's taking. Again, I'm only nitpicking here because he doesn't have a whole lot of negative, and this is the film that we were given. But just something to keep an eye on, that, you know, he's ensuring that he's staying consistent, disciplined, and, you know, doesn't take a bad angle like that, where angles are way more important in the college game, where athleticism is more of an even playing field. So overall, such a high floor for Makari Paige. His intelligence and instincts are extremely high. His athleticism, while it doesn't jump out at you, at 6'3", is going to hold 200 pounds really easily. And I think it's mainly because of how responsible of a player he is why it doesn't stand out. You know, he's not flying on every play to the ball. He's making the responsible play, and that doesn't, you know, it doesn't flash, but it makes coaches really happy. So I totally understand why, you know, he may not jump out at you athletically, but I think he has the tools necessary plus the intelligence to be a really plus player at the safety position. So I'm very excited about him. So the comparison that everyone is flying around is Jared Wilson. He was a Michigan grad in 2015. He's with the Jaguars in his 5th year in the NFL as an undrafted free agent on a contract through 2021. So he was 6'2", 6'3", out of high school at about 190. So very comparable to Makari Paige's height and his overall size out of high school. He was a 4-star and ranked 240th overall in his recruiting profile. So I mean, the comparisons are really, really close here. The athleticism, again, for Jared Wilson didn't jump out at you. He's actually a guy that I feel like a lot of fans forget about, me included, but he was very safe, right? Safety, as I'm saying, that's a huge part of the position. He's very reliable, didn't flash much, but he was dependable, lengthy, and made some good plays. And obviously, being 5+ years in the NFL, there's a big need for that, and that's a valuable asset to have. Okay, looking at projections. So our safeties in the 2020 class, you have RJ Moten, Jordan Morant, and Will Mohan, who is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing those right, but he was also an athlete, Mohan was. So all those guys were around 6 foot, 200 to 210 pounds, and they're more box type guys, right? They're more Viper type or guys you can play closer to the line of scrimmage, where Paige is more of a true safety, a true free safety. Next year you have Dax Hill and Brad Hawkins as your starting 2 safeties. Dax Hill, obviously the 5-star who got a lot of experience last year. Brad Hawkins at this point will be a redshirt senior, so lots of experience back there. Beyond that, though, there's not a whole lot of depth. You have Sammy Faustin as a redshirt junior. He hasn't seen a whole lot of action. And then you have Quentin Johnson as well, redshirt sophomore. Again, someone who hasn't seen the field all too much. So it's a pretty open race for those 3, 4, 5 safeties to really get a lot of playing time. Between Paige and the other incoming safeties, I think 1 or 2 of those are going to get a real shot at significant playing time. And Paige was the only true safety to early enrollee. Now, given that doesn't mean much, given spring practice is kind of gone with COVID, he's been in the program a bit, right? So he's seen the playbook a lot more. I'm guessing that we actually see Paige this year. I'd expect him to be maybe the 2nd or 3rd safety off the bench. So, definitely get him in on special teams, get him in garbage time when you can. But I could see him in the rotation pretty early on, maybe, not the first couple games, but get him up to speed in fourth quarters of games that you're up ahead a bunch. I think he's too valuable to have a red shirt on, especially looking at next year, where you're really going to need someone with true game experience to fill into that next safety spot once Brad Hawkins is gone. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. Really, really excited for Makari Paige here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, like and subscribe if you can. It always helps grow the channel. Press that bell notification. That helps grow the channel a lot as well. Give me a shout on Twitter at Steven Toscan, who you want to see next if the comments don't do it for you below. Appreciate all the support thus far. And as always, guys, stay safe out there and go blue.